Hey everybody, I am back. Gonna be doing a review on Sonic 3. Now, I could not do a review this past Saturday because of, or Sunday because very busy past couple of days. But now I'm here finally with my review, ready to get my thoughts on the film. Now, before I continue, please do me a huge favor and like this video, leave a comment, follow me on YouTube, as well as check out my Patreon if you want to become a Patreon member to further support the channel. Please follow me in the links in the description below. Now, once again, man, these Sonic films are just dope. Mostly because they managed to step it up each film. Now, of course, there's a couple of criticisms I had about the first two Sonic films, but they managed to very much hear the audience and make the necessary corrections. And they, the movie's all the better for it. I'll get to that soon. But yeah, this movie is directed by Neil Mortz. Sorry, not Neil Mortz. That's produced. Is directed by Jeff Fowler, and of course, it stars Ben Schwartz as Sonic the Hedgehog. Keanu Reeves voices Shadow the Hedgehog, which honestly is pitch perfect for this character. Because initially, when they announced Shadow from the second film, I always thought Michael B. Jordan would have been a great choice for Shadow the Hedgehog, but Keanu Reeves is like, yeah, definitely better. Colleen O'Shannessy as Miles Tell's Prowler, Idris Elba as Knuckles. Of course, you got Jim Carrey, who plays dual roles as Ivor Robotnik and Gerald Robotnik. James Marsden comes back as Tom Wachowski, and Tika Sumpter as his wife, Maddie Wachowski. And of course, Lee Majdoub as Agent Stone, who I like that character, but I think he was a lot funnier personally in the first film, mostly because we got always get these dopey dance scenes with Robotnik, and the first one, which is still iconic, where he just pops out of nowhere and started dancing along while Robotnik thought he was by himself, and that just slays me. Oh my god, that was the comedic timing of that was like impressive, man. Every time I think of the Sonic films, that scene immediately pops into my head and it makes me laugh every time. Anyway, so, and it's kind of a goofy acronym, but I guess it's the joke of the game. But there's this agency called Guardian Units of Nations, with using the acronym GUN, was honestly, I thought it was like, I'm pretty sure everybody thinks that is the most dumb thing to call your agency. And it's not the movie's fault. It's more so with the video game. This is like the criticism of the video game lore. But I guess that's where the joke comes into play. That it's kind of like the United Nations, but they, it's like a like a spy agency mixed with the United Nations, but is in it's supposed to be a peacekeeping type of organization, but they named themselves after a weapon, which is like the polar opposite of a peaceful thing. At least with Shield, it's not like an aggressive, even though a shield can be used as a weapon, but it's more so like a defending type of tool rather than an aggressive tool like a gun. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so um, there was a hack into a system where uh, Shadow was being put in suspended animation, but somebody hacked the system. Shadow broke out. And this is all happening in Tokyo. Shadow just starts wreaking havoc. So there's a return of this commander from the first two movies, Commander Walters, who uh, uh, calls upon Sonic and his team to go deal with this rogue hedgehog. And I say it like it's freaking normal, but it should be. But I like how this movie just plays it. It's like it's just like a normal sentence, and nobody's really all that surprised anymore. Because yeah, sure, the first movie people were like a little taken aback by this anthropomorphic hedgehog, but now it's just like, oh yeah, it's Sonic. Yeah, sure. They just go along with it, and it's like so does the audience. It's like, yeah, they call in Sonic and his team to stop this, and yeah, sure, that tracks. It's funny how things kind of evolve. Uh, but I also, while I'm thinking about it, because it was on top of my mind as I left the theater last week, I think Sonic the Hedgehog and Detective Pikachu, which by the way they make a reference to Pikachu and Pokemon, not the movie itself, but they make a reference to Pokemon in general in the film. I thought it was pretty good because like I still want since we got Detective Pikachu and now these Sonic films, and they plan on making a Metroid film and a Legend of Zelda film, I want a freaking Smash Brothers movie already. They're managing making some solid video game adaptations here, and you could make it work. I don't care for the reason to bring them all together in terms of like a multiversal thing, because that's all the rage nowadays. And I know some people getting annoyed with the whole multiversal thing, but if it's done right, because I always wanted to make a separate video talking about this, but I don't think it's gonna be like long. I thought about putting it on my TikTok, but multiverse stuff isn't necessary. Before I get into that, the reason I bring up the other stuff earlier before I forget, because I think Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog has somehow, I want to say somehow, I personally think they surpass Who Framed Roger Rabbit, who's pretty much the standard on how to make cartoons living in the real world and make it so cohesive. And I like Space Jam, not so much with Space Jam 2, but they could not. I mean, it's close. I mean, like we give it some wiggle room, but I don't know. There's some weight to these characters in the real world that you get with Detective Pikachu and Sonic, because of the advancement of the technology. But we look at the close-up shots of these characters, like you look at like Sonic or even any of the Sonic team and Shadow, you look up their eyebrows furrow, you see like the muscle kind of flex when they frown, and it looks so like you got the fur and everything like that. It looked like actual like you can actually feel like they're like the muscles beneath the fur and everything like that. You can actually reach out and touch them, kind of thing, without it feeling like a uncanny valley thing like you see with like the Megan movie or something like that. Even with Detective Pikachu, they actually get these characters that if they're supposed to have fur, give them fur, but give them the same like facial features is what we expect Pokemon to look like, or if they supposed like Gyarados. Gyarados is a sea serpent, so of course it's supposed to be very wet and scaly. You look at something like Charizard. He's technically a dragon, so he should have scales, and they did an impressive job to represent that. It's not all that smooth kind of pattern like we typically see from the anime. And I think, personally, think those two, the Sonic films and Detective Pikachu, which I still waiting for like a sequel to that, has personally I feel surpassed Who Framed Roger Rabbit, who pretty much set the standard in these type of genres. Anyway, now going back to what I was saying earlier about the multiversal thing, because I really want a Smash Brothers movie. I think why people are so irritated with the multiversal kind of stuff in a lot of these films, but it's mostly because of Hollywood. When they see something that make bank, everybody gonna want to start doing it, because the Loki season 1 happened to come around the same time as Everywhere All at Once, both of which were very successful. Now, of course, Marvel arguably was already, was going down this whole plan with a multiversal thing with Kang the Conqueror, even though that kind of fell through. But they was already, set for that to be the saga. They keep dropping the ball every once in a while. Not once in a while, like every other time they keep trying to dropping the ball. They wasn't, keeping an eye on the prize and making things kind of cohesive. That's where they, make that mistake. But then, almost every other franchise are trying to do a multiversal thing, and it comes across hacky. Aside from maybe like the Spider-Verse films, but it would come across very hacky and just slap it on because that is the new trend right now. Because of course it's corporate stuff. They see like, they don't look at the creative stuff. They look at, okay, this is being successful for these two other companies. We need to have something on the pipeline on our end to roll in the dough. But and see what made Everywhere All at Once so successful, because it took some creative know-how to make that work. They didn't just do it just to do it. And I say Sonic 3, or at least some team, can make this work to bridge the gap between these Nintendo type of characters, and start off small, but then build to a bigger crossovers. Because there's a lot of characters in Smash Bros. You don't need that'll be a feat in and of itself, similar to like Endgame, where it got all these characters that we built up over the course of 10 years. So similarly, it probably take over a course of 10 years to build like a Nintendo thing with all these different characters, and then have them cross over. Or at the very least do something similar to like the Miles Morales films, where the one character is the central focus, and bringing it in to see all these other Nintendo characters and they dealing with this singular threat. One of the two options is fine. But yeah, the multiversal thing, inherently I don't have a problem with. What I have a problem with, if you peel back the layers, is the fact that most of them weren't done well, or they don't understand why it's being done well. It's kind of slapped it on because it's popular. It's similar to how like when Interstellar came about, you see a lot of these movies with people trapped in space. All of a sudden, it was like a rage for a good long period. It's similar to like maybe like the zombie films. It's like The Walking Dead was so popular a show, then all of a sudden we got inundated with so much zombie movies and video games. Personally, I got zombie fatigue, not because I don't like zombie films or games or whatever that might have zombies in it. I don't care the fact that you're shoving it down everybody's throat because everybody and their mom want to make one. And that's where the problem lies, not with the inherent thought or premise itself. We all have a certain zombie film or game or TV show that we like. But it's like the Simpsons problem. It goes on for too long, we kind of lose our passion for it. So that's how I'm thinking about the multiverse stuff. It's not inherently bad, but if you everybody keep doing, not just with Disney, but every other studio is trying to make one, of course people will start rolling their eyes about the whole multiverse thing because it's like you're overdoing it. Anyway, I'm kind of get off track here. Anyway, when the Sonic team arrives in Tokyo, they are confronted. You saw this in the trailer. They confront Shadow the Hedgehog, and I love Keanu Reeves' this dry kind of like attitude, very cool tone. It's like this dude just cool because like Keanu Reeves, Shadow is just cool for the sake of being cool, and he's just the ultimate edge lord. And it's like you're a colorful bunch. And of course, he ain't trying to deal with none of their BS. He's like ultra serious, but in the right way. Not, because some people might take certain characters that's supposed to be kind of edgy and kind of overdo it, where it's like you don't understand the world you're in, you taking yourself way too seriously kind of thing. They really straddled the line perfectly with this character, where it's like, yeah, he's super serious. I don't want him being all jokey or whatever like that. He's kind of like the Vegeta or Seto Kaiba, where it's like, he rarely cracks a joke. But there's more layers to him beyond just being like, cool and edgy. So it pretty much stomped all three of these people, and like the trailer when I first saw it, which I did like a reaction to it, like at least a year ago when they announced it, I was like astonished. Like he just like crushes Knuckles' fist, like really beats down doors, and he just like crushes it with his bare hand, and his speed is insane. Where he just like taking everybody out, even out maneuvering Sonic. But I'm so glad they got him on a motorcycle and he does the Akira thing, the slide maneuver that we've seen in a lot of anime. Don't know why that's a thing with anime, but anybody with a motorcycle in an anime always has to do that at some point. Don't know why. And I argue it's probably the most impractical thing in real life, because I don't think anybody would realistically try to pull an Akira type of move in real life without hurting their leg. That's how I personally feel. I've never seen it happen in real life, never seen a video of that. I'm pretty sure there is. But there has to be like a, extreme, like slowing down of the vehicle to pull that off. Anyway, Sonic beats the team, then Shadow beats the team, and then he escapes, goes, and Sonic's team meets up with Commander Walter, who explains about Shadow being like an alien that was trapped in a meteorite and was experimented on. And because of some kind of tragedy, like you saw if you know the video games, he lost this one girl who was the granddaughter of the scientist who befriended him and got him through all that stuff. While those three were trying to escape, she got hurt. The scientist was arrested and Shadow was put into suspended animation until recently. So he's been harboring this hatred for a very long time. So kind of like the polar opposite of what Sonic experienced. So that's when these egg bots show up, shoot up the cafe they were hanging out at. The commander gets gravely wounded and dies, but not before canning Sonic this key card to keep safe. Then this mysterious stranger, which turns out to be Stone, destroy these egg bots and has Sonic's team follow him to the machine. This I forgot what they call it. Some crab bot thing where Ivo is living in. He's kind of let himself go a little bit. And of course, just kind of feeling defeated essentially. But Jim Carrey's done an amazing job with this character. Golly, so freaking funny. But they made an uneasy alliance because they having a tough time trying to track down Shadow and who he's working for, or at least how he escaped. So somebody stole Eggman's bots, at least some of them. So he uses their GPS signal to track down who was wielding them. So they all go to this, abandoned laboratory where Shadow was being held. And it almost comes across like a freaking horror movie where Shadow, one by one, starts picking off the team until Ivo confronts the mad scientist. Turns out to be Gerald Robotnik, his grandfather. And I just love the, like Jim Carrey is an impressive actor. To be able to act off yourself is impressive. Even, of course, the two started doing like a dance move together halfway through the movie. And it seems so seamless and hilarious. It is perfect. So, Ivo ends up betraying Sonic's team and teaming up with Gerald, because as we starting to see seated earlier in the film, at least a few scenes ago, where Stone had a conversation with Tails, and Tails says to Stone that he's more than an assistant to Sonic. He's a friend. We're a teammate. We listen to each other. We hang out, and it's like, isn't that the same way with you and Robotnik? And of course, Stone never realized. Of course, he lies, but he come to understand, like, wow, it's like, why aren't we friends? Like I know everything about this guy, and we, do a lot of stuff together, all these adventures and stuff like that. Why aren't we considered pals? And then of course we see with Ivo Robotnik, he had a conversation with Sonic where he, kind of has jaded outlook on family compared to how Sonic views family, because nobody was there to bring him up right. He was just darn near alone. So now he meets up with his long lost grandfather, and now he's kind of relishing in this paternal thing he has with his grandfather, because he had nobody to look out for him or teach him stuff. And, of course, it's not a good role model for Ivo, but they're so similar. And I love the whole slight break of the fourth wall that they do. I'm not gonna spoil that part. You guys can, if you've seen the movie, know what I'm talking about. It was so freaking funny. And any other movie could come across, other than maybe Deadpool, can have that scene come across as eye-rolly, but maybe it's because it's Jim Carrey and he plays it so authentically. It just seems so seamless. It is so funny. So, now that these two are starting to form a bond, Stone feels kind of left out. So Sonic's team are tied up in this facility while uh, the Robotniks leave along with Shadow and Stone, and Shadow drops this black hole grenade, and while it's going to suck up everything inside this hidden laboratory, uh, they had one last golden ring that they used to make their escape. Uh, Realizing they're headed towards London because the key cards uh, that Robotnik stole now from Sonic. Well, the key card he stole from Sonic is one or two key cards that's connected to this um, orbital weapon that Gerald built long ago for Gun in order to, I guess, like protect Earth from any kind of intergalactic threats or whatever. But it lies dormant, but it only can be accessed with two key cards. Commander Walter had one, while Gun Facility Headquarters in London has the other. So now the Robotniks heads to London in order to get that second key card. Sonic and the team goes to uh, the Wachowskis for help. They managed to form up a plan in order to get past like the force field around the building and about the laser grid and everything like that without being lasered to death. So using this like disguise technology, the Wachowskis come in disguised as the sister-in-law and her husband from the last movie, which a lot of people point out, are they contractually obligated to put these two in these films? Because they don't really have to. Nobody will miss them. That's the biggest issue people had with the last movie, because it's weird Tyler Perry wedding that they just threw in here, like for some reason. Maybe because they needed the sister to have some kind of, to do something instead of just hanging around for no reason. And it's like, she's not funny, not entertaining at all, and nor does like Shamar Moore's character. Now, normally he is a great actor, but he doesn't do anything beyond like, yeah, he's a soldier. He looks good and he has muscles, and honestly, don't know why because it's so eye roll. There's at least the sisters, more specifically, so annoying, and it's like. And I can say this because like I'm black, but this girl come across as so ghetto, and I don't care for it. It is very stereotypical and not in a fun way. At the very least, if it was a fun way, but it wasn't fun. It wasn't funny. Not entertaining at the least, and they just dropped this character all in all. That's why I point out that they gotten better a bit over the course of these three films, where they show this character less and less. But even still, you have to put her in for maybe a few minutes of time. So it isn't like too groaning, but it's like just a disguise. By the way, if you're infiltrating a agency and you're trying to be in disguise, why don't you disguise yourself as somebody who worked there? Like, I can buy maybe Shamar Moore's character because he was like a special agent, but why the hell would he bring in his wife who doesn't have the clearance? There's not, you bring your wife to work day, so it doesn't make any sense to have the sister disguise at all. And maybe it's just me, but And it's a nothing burger. It's something I just kind of brought to mind. Don't need to cancel nobody. None of that stuff. I'm just can't help but think about this immediately that uh Tom disguised himself as his brother-in-law who's black and he's white, and I get it, it's the disguise. It's not the same thing as blackface, but it just seems like I don't know. I don't know. It's like it's not blackface. It's not nothing needs to be cancelable. It's a nothing burger. I just can't help but think about it. It's like, you know, if I had a disguise and it turns me white, I would kind of have a level of acknowledgement, at least just one sentence acknowledgement, maybe. Nothing too grotesque or belligerent or anything like that, but just I don't know. Uh, I don't know. It's something I personally think about. Doesn't need to be putting anything in there. Doesn't need to make a thing out of it. But it's just like, wow. Yeah. Anyway, I got off tangent here. So they infiltrate the facility to put in this USB drive in order for Tails to get inside. But the Robotniks are in there, so they trying to beat uh them to the punch. Sonic goes in thanks to the assistance of Tails, but they end up getting trapped by anti-gravity floor tiles. So some get stuck on the floor, and the others, starts floating in midair. So, which is kind of like a great way to stop something like Sonic, because his powers primarily is useful when he's on the ground. And of course, now the new leader of, or at least the head honcho for the time being, of the gun agency, played by Kristen Ritter, director Rockwell, and while she's pretty much gloating the fact that she outsmarted both the Robotniks, Knuckles breaks down the shield with his fist, causing this shockwave that kind of wrecks the room that they're in. And of course, like the Wachowski is there and everything like that as well with other agents. And so everybody's stuck to the floor or floating in midair, so they can't do nothing. And Rockwell managed to get the key card and runs off. But thanks to Knuckles managed to destroy the keypad that controls the anti-gravity floors, Tom runs off to head off Rockwell, use the disguise to pretend to be Walter to have her hand him the key card. But clearly the dude's dead. Pretty much stated as so. So the fact that she seems so stunned when she sees him, she should immediately question, wait a minute, you dead. I know you dead. How are you still alive? And she should be, putting out her gun on him and, arresting him or something like that, just to figure something out, because it doesn't make any sense. Because you saw his body, and clearly they acknowledged he died. Didn't show back up in the film at no point. But as Tom in disguise managed to get the key card from her, and as he's turning the corner to meet up with Sonic and the others, Shadow pops up, and since Walter was there all those years ago at the facility as kind of like a low-ranking officer, but he was there and Shadow recognized him, so he sees him as part of the problem. So before Tom can say anything, Shadow attacks who he thought was Walter, but seeing that it was a disguise, you see him actually feel bad, but he still has a mission, so he moves on. While Sonic is like bereaved that Tom is like, you know, injured. So the Wachowski has to go to the hospital so he can get the care he needs. But now Sonic is just, which we rarely get to see almost in anything, which this movie plays very well. Whereas like Sonic is just so angry. The fact that Shadow did this uh, to his pretty much his adoptive father. So he orders Knuckles to hand over the Master Emerald, even though they agree that it was Knuckles who will keep it safe and hidden, even to the point where even neither Tails or Sonic would know of the location because it's so powerful, as we saw in the last film, when he went Super Saiyan, which, by the way, this movie and the last movie does an impressive job in displaying how Dragon Ball Z fights should look like in a realistic setting. I don't know how nobody can never copy that, because definitely does leaps and bounds better than the Dragon Ball Evolution movie. But it clearly, like, Sonic and Knuckles get into, like, it looked like they were about to come to blows, like a civil war almost, where it's like he ain't trying to listen, and Knuckles telling him that he has a responsibility and he should know that better than most, that the Master Emerald is too powerful to be wielded by any one person, and I'm not going to let you touch it. And it's like, no, you're going to give it to me because I order you to give it to me. I'm the leader of this team. And he doesn't treat them like family at this point. He seemingly doesn't regard them like family because Tom is pretty much like the main one that's supposed to be like, he's the one that took care of Sonic when he needed the most after losing like Longclaw and everything like that in the first film. So this is personal for Sonic now. But Knuckles, not one to attack his friend, he relents and says like, you better know what you're doing, because clearly you're not in your right mind right now because you're too angry. But he goes, and of course, once again, we get that dopey sidekick of Tom's back at Green Hill Village. And he's the one that's looking at the Master Emerald, and he's playing freaking hockey with it. It's so freaking dumb. I don't know. Of course, I guess it's like Knuckles. You won't expect anything less from that character. But even still, it's like, come on. It's like you couldn't have had it locked away, buried somewhere in a location that you only know of. The whole thing's stupid. Sonic shows up, takes the Emerald, goes Super Saiyan, and flies off towards the flying orbital ship that the Robotniks are on, and they're using Shadow's power to power up the station in order to, what Ivo thinks was utilizing it to rule the world. But because Gerald is so bereaved himself, he doesn't care. He's willing to blow up not only them with this ship once it's fired, but power it up to a point where it doesn't just destroy a city, but it's going to blow up the entire planet, which I was not down with. They end up getting into a fight where you see them go against, gadget against gadget, which is kind of fun to see. Sonic shows up and immediately starts attacking Shadow, and the fight goes, in space, on Earth, then onto the moon, and like I said, it looks like a Dragon Ball Z fight, like something that we always want from a Dragon Ball Z live action movie or live action ish movie, and it looks spectacular, man. God. My friend of mine, after I went to see the movie, want to know how it was. I had to tell him it was great, but I did not want. I was so eager to tell him about this particular scene, but it's like, no, that's a spoiler. So I want him to see it for himself. But man, this is the best Dragon Ball Z movie I ever seen inside a non-Dragon Ball Z property. Uh, but then Shadow does this kind of martial arts move, which kind of knocks the emeralds out of Sonic, and they both race towards it, so they both end up getting Super Saiyan. So we actually get to see Super Shadow, and these two go up against each other, and it is like a phenomenal fight. Very well done. It all comes colliding, coming to the end on top of the moon, where Sonic finally gets the upper hand, and he realizing, uh, what he's about to do, and he remembers, the lessons that Tom taught him. Right? So he realized, like I'm not the kind of guy who seeks revenge and hurts, or kills people. Uh, and he has a heart to heart with Shadow, and Shadow remembers all the good moments he had with Maria, and so they reconcile and they do the. I'm pretty sure everybody else got that moment because it feels like the Carl Weathers, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Predator hand grip, like you son of a bitch, and then and they both power up and go off to take down that space station before it fires at the planet. Meanwhile, Ivo is seemingly killed by Gerald, but is saved by Knuckles and Tails, and he kicks his grandfather into the spiraling glow stream that Shadow created. And the funniest thing, did not expect this. I don't think anybody expected this. It got like a huge laugh where he ends up flying, and you think it's gonna be some kind of grotesque kind of kill, but no, it's kind of like a bug zapper. It goes, bzz, and they're like, no, bzz. And I was like, did not expect that. That was so freaking funny. So, and of course, you wonder where Stone is. Stone, when he figures out at the whole London incident, figures out that Ivo and Shadow doesn't intend to rule the world. He tries to warn Ivo, but he wouldn't listen. But then Ivo, and after they help prevent the destruction of the planet, the station's about to explode. Knuckles and Tails save Sonic after he's kind of lost power, after him and Shadow saved the planet. Shadow and Ivo stay behind to direct the space station as far away from the planet Earth as possible before it explodes, and he sends a signal to Earth for Stone to witness, saying that he always considered him a friend, basically. And of course, a nice little callback from the first film about like the cappuccinos. I like the way you make them. That line, which for some reason always stuck with me, even after all these years. It's the way that Jim Carrey delivered that line is probably why it stuck. And so Ivo similarly dies along with Shadow, but in credits, Shadow survives. Sonic apologizes to the team for how he acted. Later on, the team, along with the Wachowskis and Tom, of course, he's a right. They all celebrate, has a nice time camping. Then there's an end credit scene where Sonic kind of outpaces everybody, and then he's nearing New York or on the outskirts of New York or something like that in the woods, and then all of a sudden these metal Sonic starts showing up, and this again like a big applause from the crowd. And of course Sonic takes one out, but then this whole group of them showing up, and then all of a sudden Amy Rose shows up, not voice mind you. Amy Rose shows up, and everybody starts howling. Now, I like Amy Rose, but I was kind of half expecting Rouge, but dog. And now people want, like, I saw on like the my uh Twitter feed that people want Aquafina to voice Amy Rose. I'm like, hell no. I like uh Aquafina well enough, but she has she doesn't have the vocal range for somebody like Amy Rose, honestly. Uh because she only has that one voice. And I don't hate the voice like everybody else does, but it isn't the voice that I would put for Amy Rose at all. Either get the actual voice actress or maybe get Anya Taylor Joy. Because I think she was pitch perfect for Princess Peach. Try to say that 3 times fast. Uh, but she also seems like, maybe because when she was announced for Princess Peach, it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense because given like the profile they use is very pinkish. So it's like, yeah, it kind of matches. And given that Amy Rose is kind of pinkish, it's like, yeah, I think Anya Taylor Joy is like a more of a match for Amy Rose. Or go with somebody else, but like, I don't know, a very cutesy type of voice. To go with Amy Rose. And that's how I personally feel. But yeah, that was Sonic 3, man. I freaking loved it. It's an amazing film. Like I said, I have a few qualms with it. Like, really, I mean, they toned it down with the human characters, at least not the important ones. Uh, like, because the commander, he needed a role in this. And of course, it was the gun agents and then the Robotniks and Stone. They were probably the more critical humans that we only care to see. But Wachowskis, their time was very toned down, which is nice. Of course, we want them to see them, but they did a good job of like limiting their screen time because, the human characters, if they are seen too much in these type of things, it kind of weighs down the enjoyment of what we came to see. But then the ones we don't need to see ever is the sister-in-law and the husband. That's it. So the next Sonic film, whenever that'll be, I don't want to see that sister-in-law or her husband ever again. I don't want to. I don't care. I don't think anybody cares. Anyway, that was Sonic 3. Amazing. And obviously, don't know who the main villain is, but obviously Metal Sonic is going to be part of it. Maybe they'll also try to bring in Silver this time around. But also, hopefully, Rouge. Because there's something about that character that's really fun. But anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think of Sonic 3. Did you enjoy it? What was your pros and cons of that sort? And I will see you guys in a little bit as I'll cover the last 2 Christmas films that I want to review for the year before we close out the December month review, because next week we're going to take a bit of a break from streaming before January starts rolling around and I start getting to like normal film reviews and not so inundated. But anyway, take care and I will see you all soon. Peace.